The bell above the door chimed like a glass whisper. Amani Miller stepped into the boutique like she didn't belong, not because she doubted herself, but because they did. The floor beneath her sneakers was marble, cold, perfect, silent. Too silent. This was La Rue, the most exclusive fashion house in the city, a place where price tags had commas, and clients arrived in town cars, not city buses. Amani didn't come to gawk. She came with a purpose. A golden satin dress shimmered behind the glass, floor length, hand-stitched, the kind of dress that made people stop breathing for a second. It was the one she had dreamed about since sophomore year, the one she promised herself she'd wear to prom no matter how many part-time shifts it took. But the moment she stepped in, all that shimmer dimmed. Because across the showroom, behind the polished counter, stood a woman with platinum blonde hair and a smile sharpened like a scalpel. Cassandra. The name on her tag said client liaison, but her eyes said something else. Suspicion. She didn't say welcome. She said, "Can I help you?" But it sounded like, "Can I stop you before you touch something expensive?" Amani nodded, polite. "I'm here to see the satin dress in the window." Cassandra tilted her head, her smile not moving. "That one's reserved for appointment clients only." "I called last week," Amani replied, reaching into her bag. "I spoke with someone named Zoe. She said walk-ins could try it on." Cassandra didn't answer. Instead, she pressed something beneath the counter. A silent buzz. In the corner, a security guard, tall, broad, bald, began to move toward them. Amani saw it all. She always saw it. The sideways looks, the double takes, the assumption that her presence was a problem waiting to happen. She smiled anyway. Not for them, for herself. "I just want to try it on," she said calmly. Cassandra paused, then motioned to the dressing room. "Fine, but I'll need to hold your bag." Amani handed it over carefully, as if surrendering something sacred. Inside were her tip envelopes, 2 IDs, and the receipt of her deposit for the dress. She stepped into the fitting room, clutching the gown like it might vanish. Minutes passed. Then came the knock. Cassandra's voice colder now. "I'm going to need you to come out." Amani opened the curtain. Behind Cassandra stood the security guard. And her bag was open on the floor. "Something's missing," Cassandra said flatly. "The ring display. After you walked by, it was gone." Amani froze. "I didn't take anything." "We'll see what the cameras say," Cassandra replied. "Until then, please stay here." It wasn't a request. The guard's hand hovered near his belt. Amani looked down at the dress on her body, the same one she had worked so hard for, and suddenly it felt like chains. What they didn't know was that someone else was about to walk through that door. Someone who remembered a name they had forgotten. And that name would unravel everything. The security guard stood like a wall. Amani stood like she'd been pushed against one. Still wearing the dress. Still holding her breath. Cassandra crossed her arms, her voice clipped and mechanical, as if she'd done this before. "You understand, we can't let you leave until we've reviewed the footage." Amani's jaw clenched. "Then show me the footage." "We're working on it." "Then I'll wait." The words came out steady, but her fingers were trembling. Not from guilt, from the weight of knowing that her word alone wasn't enough. Not here, not in this store, not in that dress. It never had been. Outside, the door burst open. Not slammed, not kicked, but opened with the kind of force only a mother can summon when her child is being wronged. Ayanna Miller. Mid-40s, afro pulled into a tight bun, no makeup, work scrubs still damp at the sleeves. She didn't walk in. She arrived. "I want to see my daughter," she said, her voice like stone. Cassandra blinked. "This is a private matter." "She's a minor, that makes it my matter." Security moved to block her path, but stopped when Ayanna locked eyes with him. She didn't yell, she didn't beg, she simply looked, like a storm about to break. Moments later, she was inside the dressing area. Amani stood in the gown, her shoulders shaking. Ayanna wrapped her arms around her, whispered only 2 words. "I'm here." Then she turned to Cassandra. "What happened?" Cassandra smirked. "We believe your daughter may have taken something from the jewelry section." "You believe?" Ayanna stepped forward. "Did you see her take it?" "We're reviewing." "No, answer me. Did you see her take anything?" Silence. "You searched her bag?" "Yes." "And?" "She had a receipt, some cash." Ayanna's voice tightened. "And yet you called security for a girl in a prom dress because she walked by a ring display?" "She looked nervous," Cassandra replied. "And her presence made a few of our other clients uncomfortable." Ayana laughed, but there was no joy in it, only disbelief. I've spent 20 years working night shifts, saving, raising my daughter right, and you're telling me her presence makes people uncomfortable? Cassandra didn't respond. Ayana stepped closer. You looked at my daughter and saw a problem. I look at her and see everything I ever prayed for. A pause. You don't get to reduce her to a threat. Just then, a quiet voice interrupted the standoff. Excuse me. An older man in a tailored charcoal suit stepped inside. White beard trimmed sharp, a silver cane in his hand. All heads turned. Who are you? Cassandra asked, annoyed. He didn't answer her. His eyes were on Amani, then on Ayana. Then, they widened. Ayana, he said, almost a whisper. Cassandra frowned. You know her? The man nodded slowly. Ayana Miller. Now everyone was listening. He turned to Cassandra. She's the reason this store exists. What? Cassandra blinked. He looked at Ayana. You saved my life. Don't think I forgot. Amani stared at her mother. Mom, who is this? Ayana looked away. Just a man I once helped. But he wasn't just a man. He was Mr. Langston Hale, founder and former CEO of LaRue. Retired, mysterious, rarely seen. Now standing between a mother, a daughter, and a store that had just made a very expensive mistake. He turned to Cassandra. Where's the footage? It's still being retrieved. He didn't wait. Let me see it. Minutes passed. When the security screen lit up, the truth unspooled like film on a reel. Amani walked past the ring display. Never touched it. A few seconds later, another customer, well-dressed, white, distracted, accidentally knocked the tray into her handbag while texting. She gasped, noticed the rings, and walked away, never realizing what had happened. Clear, undeniable. Cassandra paled. Mr. Hale turned back to Ayana and Amani. I'm so sorry. Ayana's face didn't move. We're used to sorry. But Hale's next words silenced the room. How much is that dress? Cassandra replied, voice small. $5,000. He nodded. Then as of now, it belongs to her. The room remained frozen in silence. Langston Hale, once a name whispered in boardrooms, now standing in a dressing room, face to face with a woman the world forgot. But he never did. Ayana, he said again, voice steadier now. I remember everything. Ayana's gaze didn't soften. She didn't smile. She didn't ask how he'd been. I didn't do it for you, she said. I know, he replied. That's what made it unforgettable. Amani looked between them, confused. What is he talking about? Langston stepped back, gesturing gently. Come with me, both of you. They followed him out of the fitting room, past the employees still too stunned to speak, past the mannequins frozen in perfect elegance, and into the back office, where the glass was frosted and sound couldn't escape. Langston gestured to the leather chairs. Please. Ayana remained standing. He nodded, understanding. It was 20 years ago, he began. A snowstorm on the interstate. I was driving back from a supplier meeting. I had just finalized the loan to open the flagship LaRue downtown. I was arrogant, distracted, and too stubborn to pull over. I remember, Ayana said. You hit black ice. Langston chuckled, the kind of laugh people make when remembering their own stupidity. My car flipped into a ditch. No other vehicles nearby. I was pinned, bleeding, hypothermic. And I was driving home from a double shift, Ayana added, arms crossed. I didn't expect anyone to stop, let alone a nurse. You didn't need a nurse. You needed someone who still believed people like you were worth saving. Amani's eyebrows raised, stunned by the tension in her mother's voice. Langston nodded slowly. You got me out. Called emergency services. Stayed with me until they arrived. When I asked for your name, you said only one thing. Ayana finished it for him. Don't thank me. Just build a world where my daughter won't have to explain herself every time she walks into a store. The silence after that sentence was louder than any siren. Amani looked down, realizing this store, this man, this name, all tied to a moment long before she was old enough to understand what her mother had given up. Langston walked to a drawer, pulled out a thin folder. I tried to send you money, for months, tracked down your name, your address. You refused every check. You can't buy what I gave you, Ayana said coldly. No, Langston agreed, but maybe I can repay you another way. He slid the folder across the table. Ayana didn't touch it. Langston turned to Amani. It's a 20% equity offer in the LaRue brand, not a gift, a partnership, for both of you. Amani blinked. Why me? Because your mother gave me life, and you reminded me what I did with it. Ayana finally sat down. Her eyes weren't warm, but they weren't cold anymore, and that was something. Then the door opened. Cassandra stood there, small now, uncertain, no longer the gatekeeper of elegance and suspicion. "I wanted to apologize," she said, looking directly at Amani. "I know what I did was wrong. I was scared of being wrong in front of the wrong people. But I forgot there's something worse than being wrong. It's being cruel." Amani stood. She didn't yell, didn't smirk. She simply said, "Thank you, but I'm not the one you owe the most to." Cassandra turned to Ayanna. Ayanna just stared, then nodded once. And that, too, was something. The store looked different now. Gone were the portraits of past fashion icons. In their place, a new centerpiece stood tall in the center of the boutique. A gold-framed plaque. "This store stands because a woman once stopped for a stranger." Below it, Ayanna Miller, healer, mother, and cornerstone. It was opening day under new leadership. And Amani, now in a sleek, custom-fitted blazer, not satin, not shimmer, stood at the front with confidence that couldn't be bought or borrowed. People came in, looked, asked, listened. Some came to gawk, others came to buy. But every single one of them learned the story. Langston stood beside Ayanna, who remained quietly composed, not triumphant, not boastful, simply present like a truth that had always been there, even if no one wanted to read it. But then, from the crowd, a figure emerged. A woman in her 70s, white, elegant, but modest. And Ayanna's entire body stiffened. Langston noticed. "You know her?" he asked quietly. Ayanna didn't answer. The woman stepped forward. "I wasn't sure you'd still remember me," she said. Ayanna's voice was tight. "I never forgot." Amani looked back and forth, confused. "Who is she?" The woman answered before Ayanna could. "My name is Evelyn Hale. I'm Langston's older sister." Gasps. Even Langston was taken aback. Evelyn continued, eyes never leaving Ayanna. 20 years ago, when my brother was in that ditch, the board had already planned to shut the brand down. He didn't tell you that." Langston's face darkened. "You stepped in, gave him a second chance, and he turned that second chance into an empire." Ayanna stayed silent. Evelyn stepped closer. "What you don't know, Ayanna, is that after you walked away, after you refused his money, our father tried to erase the record, said it would damage the brand to be tied to a charity case." "I wasn't a charity case," Ayanna snapped. "I know," Evelyn said softly. "That's why I'm here." From her purse, she pulled a folded document, yellowed, worn, a letter. Amani took it and read aloud. "To whom it may concern, the true founder of the modern LaRue brand is not myself alone, but the woman who saved me when I had nothing to offer her in return. If I ever forget that, I deserve to lose it all. Signed, Langston Hale." Langston's face went pale. He had written it, long ago, but never sent it. Ayanna looked at him. "You never meant to bury it, but you didn't fight to make it seen either." He swallowed hard. "I was afraid they'd think I didn't build this myself." Amani stepped forward. "But you didn't. Not alone. And that's the point." The room quieted. Amani turned to the crowd. "My mother saved a man's life. And for 20 years, she watched the world build towers out of that moment, never once invited to step inside." She looked to Evelyn. "Thank you, but this isn't about a letter." She turned to Langston. "It's about whether this place is finally ready to honor its true beginning." Langston met her eyes. "I am." He took the mic from the stand. "In addition to her equity, starting today, Ayanna Miller is named honorary co-founder of LaRue, and this store will no longer bear just my name." He paused. "It will bear the name of the woman who gave it breath. LaRue, Miller Hale." The new sign was unveiled behind them. The cameras flashed. The press took notes. But Ayanna stood still. Then finally she smiled. Weeks passed. The plaque remained. Some came to take photos with it. Others came just to stand before it, quietly, as if trying to feel what kind of love builds something without asking to be named. Inside the boutique, business was better than ever. But that wasn't the story anymore. The real story lived in a corner office that had no gold plates, just 2 names on the door, Miller, Hale. Amani walked through that door now, not as a girl in borrowed dignity, but as the co-owner of the space that once tried to erase her. She wore her confidence like that golden dress she once couldn't afford, not because it shimmered, but because it fit her soul. Her mother? Still Ayanna. Still strong. Still soft where it mattered. She didn't care for titles. Never needed applause. She just wanted her daughter to walk into any room and never wonder if she deserved to be there. And now, Amani was the room. At the grand reopening gala, a young black girl walked in, nervously adjusting her collar. She wasn't there to buy. She was there to look. Amani spotted her from across the showroom and walked over, smiled. See anything you like? The girl shrugged. Just browsing. Amani nodded. That's how queens shop. No rush. The girl smiled, a real one. Because for the first time, someone saw her not as a shadow, but as a spark. Outside, the world still spun fast. Still judged. Still underestimated. But inside that boutique, in a store once built on exclusion, something had changed. A plaque. A partnership. A promise. And a legacy stitched not with thread, but with truth. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that dignity isn't given, it's reclaimed, then don't just watch. Be part of the change. Subscribe to this channel for more stories where justice speaks and voices long silenced finally get to sing. Because the world doesn't change in headlines. It changes one name, one truth, one choice, at a time. And sometimes, it starts with a girl who just wanted a dress,